Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. So today I'm delighted to welcome Hayley Hunter Hines, who does some extraordinary work. And one of the things we're going to kick off today is talking about one of her favorite themes, which is inviting people to the party. And having grown up in a family where one of the basic policies of the family was that absolutely anything could be turned into a game, especially if it's a disaster. When I saw Hayley's thing about inviting people to the party, I was immediately hooked. Hayley is a globally recognized wellness futurist, a luxury experience architect, and founder of Soul Sparkle Living. With over 30 years of experience in corporate wellness and holistic consulting, Hayley helps visionary brands design emotionally intelligent spaces and experiences that restore vitality, elevate presence, and blend science and soul to reimagine how we live, work, and lead. She has an MS in health promotion management and certifications in culinary nutrition, yoga, and somatic intelligence. And with all that, Hayley bridges evidence-based strategy with soulful, sensory-rich design. I mean, that just sounds so delicious. So, Hayley, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And we were just saying, weren't we, before we started recording, that particularly these days, it's so nice to remind ourselves of the lighter side of life, and that's always something that we can choose to tune into whatever we want to tune into, can't we? But tuning into the light of life is so important.
Absolutely.
So would you like to kick off by saying something about this inviting people to the party? I think you were telling me before that this is something you've always been connected to, right from when you were very young. Would you like to share something about that?
Sure. So I think where it stemmed from, at least from a business perspective, is I believe a lot of times as creators, as entrepreneurs, we create the things we want to experience ourselves, right? So if we see something that's not maybe in the market or something that we would like to experience, we have the ability to create that. And so I've kind of used that as my guiding light with Soul Sparkle with my business. And the way that I describe it is that I usually imagine the most fabulous thing. And I'm going to use an example as my first Soul Sparkle Paris experience. I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if I could bring a group of women to Paris and we do incredible, tours and cuisine and cooking classes, and we go to the region of Champagne and we do like all of these beautiful things. And really it was because that's what I wanted to have an experience of myself. And so I just created that. And then the philosophy became, well, I'm just going to build it and invite people to the party. I'm going to create the event and then invite them to join me in that experience. And so that's been kind of the ethos of Soul Sparkle Living, because it's truly just me doing life, creating magical things, and inviting people to join me along the way. That's really the vibe.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're completely sidestepping anything around how do I persuade people this is a good thing? How do I sell this? Because you're living and breathing that's amazing, because that's what you're connected into. And people will be drawn to that. People probably will be drawn to that, actually, more so than not. I mean, even if, as you just described it then, and the look on your face, I mean, people listening can't see the look on Hayley's face, but the look on your face as you were describing it was just one of complete happiness and appreciation about the thing that you were creating. And I can completely resonate to that. It's almost like that feeling of if people coming around for dinner, we want to make it really feel lovely for them coming in, and we want to do it in a way that we like as well as.
Right. And you're
So,
right, because I think the more we create in the way that we want to experience something, the more magnetic it is, and the more people are drawn to that energy, to that frequency, right? Because we are so excited about it. And so, yes, to your point, I've always felt that it's a much more compelling conversation when you just share about something that you're excited to experience yourself, and then people are so drawn to join you with that, whatever it may be, wherever it is in the world or whatever the experience is. The more lit up you are about it, the more people are going to resonate with whatever it is you're offering.
Yeah, so true. So you said there the story about how you connected into that in terms of your offering and your work now. Was this something that only really came to fruition in you as an adult, or was it something you also had as a child? You know, this connection to inviting people to the party.
Well, I think I've always been drawn to the element of whimsy, of awe and wonder, and I've always had a little bit of a leaning toward that in my as long as I could remember. And I remember my mother used to always tell me that people have always been drawn to me. Whatever it is I'm doing, whatever I'm up to, they want to be around. They want to be part of it, right? And so I think there's an emanation of that vibe or that essence in everything that I do. And so it's just natural that I blend that into my work. It's so easy, right? And I even have this framework that I developed over all these years. You mentioned that I've been doing this wellness thing for a long time, kind of an OG in that field, right? And so, we talked a lot about the body. We talked about, the metrics, the nutrition, the exercise, all the things that you should do to take care of your physical body. And then we moved into this idea of the psychological aspects. So stress management, financial management, depression, anxiety, things that impact us and impact our health, but are more of a psychological construct. And then we moved into like the social part where we understood how important, connection and community are, and the deepening of relationships and having people that you love and that you're surrounded by in your life, how important that is on your overall well-being. Then we moved into the idea of the spiritual connection and how it's really of benefit for all of us, whatever that may be, however it may look for you, to have some element of connection with spirit. And so that's been my body, mind, soul, spirit framework. But then I added my element to that, which is the sparkle, which is that way of being in life that creates magic and miracles and a sense of wonder. And so that is really the framework that I build all of my work around. I build my own personal life around it, and how I work with clients is kind of that 5D framework. And I feel like I've had elements of that my whole life. Yes. So it's been a long time in the making to be able to anchor it in the right words,
Mm.
but that's been a part of me for as long as I could remember.
Amazing. So that sounds like this ingredient of the sparkle was always present. And then you went out and you learned about all these different aspects of wellness. And now you found a way to like channel the sparkle through all those vehicles. Is
Right.
that
Bring it all together. Absolutely. Like the through line, the through the tapestry is that now. And it can be a part of everything that we do when we recognize it and allow it. And that to me is where the magic unfolds, honestly.
beautiful? It's so interesting. I mean, I've had various conversations with people who've said something a little bit similar, where they've got a quality that's particular to them, which on its own is great. But then when they expand outwards and understand much more about the world and how everything works, and then channel it through that, that's when you get the most interesting, integrated, accessible offerings. So for you, does that mean you're constantly kind of in a state of bliss and alignment in your
Well, I'd
life
say
and in your work?
constantly is probably a bit of a stretch, but I would say that my baseline is joy, right? That's just kind of my natural disposition. And I also have really curated my life to where my intention is always to stay in that as much as I can. And then if I'm for any reason something happens and I'm out of it, I have the tools to come back to center, right? So I don't usually stay there very long, and I'm able to bring myself back, which is a lot of part of the work that I do as well. Is things are going to happen. I mean, it's life, right? We're in human form. We are spiritual beings in a human experience, right? But I think that being able to bring yourself back to center is a really powerful gift. And so, yeah, there are always going to be times where you are not in those states of bliss, but the teaching is how quickly can you come back and ground back into joy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And in order to do that, you've got to feel that coming back into joy is the right thing to do, haven't you? So not everybody feels that way. I spent time with somebody once who, the minute you said the word fun, to them, fun is wrong. Okay, so it's the opposite, right? So do you have any kind of insight into why it is or how it is that you're somebody who knows that coming back to joy is the right thing to do, as against some other people who just don't, or they're frightened of that, or they think it's wrong or immoral because people are suffering and all that stuff. What's your take on that?
Well, I believe that we're here um, to anchor light, more light, as much light as we can on the planet, and emanate as much love as we can, right? And not like a superficial light and love vibe, which is to me not the actual embodiment. I mean, that's just anyone can say that, but it's the being it, it's the embodying it, and then helping others see that and feel that as well. To me, that's the greatest gift that we can give to humanity right now. And our joy, our happiness, our and again, depending on how they utilize the words, but I believe that having fun and being like a child as much as we can is what is going to help us get through this next evolution of humanity, right? Yes, there are things to be heartbroken about every single day. If we allow ourselves to stay in that all the time, we would never be able to probably function, frankly. Our bodies are not designed to be inundated with this much heartache and heartbreak and trauma. We're not designed that way. So I think it's being very boundaried and protecting your energy and allowing yourself to, again, I keep saying embody, but it's like how much of that can we bring to the world? And the more we're dancing, the more we're laughing, the more we're loving, the more we're hugging, the more connected we are, the more conversations, the more we're dreaming, the more we're creating, the more we're making art, like whatever it is, right? Those are the ways we're going to anchor in a new way of being for humanity. And the only way we can do that is to get out of the really, I mean, we can talk about the dimensions, but like out of the third dimensional kind of day-to-day stuff and get to that higher level, to transcend to the higher level. And that's what we need to be doing. We're here for such a time as this to anchor in the new earth and the new way of being. And to me, that we do that through laughing and having fun and loving people.
Fantastic. So you've got a deeply spiritual context for your work, so
Yeah.
so which might not be what everyone might expect when they look at it. They might think, oh, fun, sparkle equals superficial, but clearly for you, absolutely not.
Well, there's two parts, right? There's the soul and the sparkle. And sometimes I lean more heavily to the sparkle where we have champagne on a yacht in Croatia and island hop. Okay. Or we're having cooking classes and wine tastings in the hills of Tuscany. That's lovely. Like that's fun and beautiful and joyful. And I do think we're here to enjoy, right? And then there's also the soul part, and there's deeply mystical, esoteric teachings that I think can transform us as individuals and as a society that I also am fascinated by. So I think I've always been a little bit of a hybrid, and I don't think there's anything wrong with either side of that. It's just being as true and authentic to my own makeup, my own being, right? And this is the fullest expression of myself and my soul and my work in the world.
Beautiful. So if you come across somebody who has a completely different perspective, because some people, as I alluded to, have this perspective that that the virtuous, correct thing to do is to be miserable, or to be worried about other people who may be suffering and so on, and putting a lot of energy into that.
Right.
Do you ever meet people who have that perspective?
Not a lot really anymore because we don't really we're not on the same frequency anymore, right? Like I just don't tend to vibe at the same level. Not to say that I don't meet them, but I don't really have those people in my inner world anymore
Yeah.
because
So
they
they're
don't.
more peripheral. They're not so present in the center of your life.
Exactly, because I don't make a lot of sense to people like that,
Yeah.
right?
So there's a
And
kind of natural attracting or non-attracting
sure.
going on. That's really interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that happens for all of us. We sometimes wonder why a friend might drop out of our life or a relationship might end, a romantic one. And really, a lot of times it's because we've elevated our frequency to the point where we're just not in sync anymore. We just don't get each other anymore. Almost to the point where you can't even understand each other anymore. I've had that happen where it's like we're not even speaking the same language, which a lot of times is the case since I live in Italy. But you get the idea. It's like you just don't have the resonance anymore. So, like, you and I are having this level of a conversation because we're at the same frequency, right? But a lot of people that might listen may think I'm crazy or whatever, or I don't make sense to them because that's not their reality. So they say your vibe attracts your tribe. You've heard that saying, and I believe that. I think that people are drawn to us that resonate with our energy and our joy or our frequency. I say that a lot, but I think it's a very real thing, and it's a very real thing when they go away because they don't understand maybe where you're at in your own life right now. So it's really interesting.
I think that is really interesting. And of course, everyone's on their path, isn't it? And sometimes I imagine there may be some people listening who think, actually, I feel drawn to Hayley's energy and to what she's saying, even though some of it's a bit new to me.
Right.
And other people are going to be listening and thinking, yeah, this is exactly what I feel. We're all in different places at different times in our lives, aren't we?
Right. And none of them are right or wrong. It just is. I think that's the key. And what you were saying earlier about the ones that are like saying, well, this is wrong and you should be this, you should be that. I actually feel like the greatest gift we can give ourselves is to stop judging other people. Period. Period. Like just let people be. Let them live. Being judged is one of the worst feelings, that we can have. And it's just such a yucky, slimy, ew feeling. And it's like, why would you project that on anyone else? Just let them do their life. Let them be. There's no judgment. There's no shame. If you want to do that, do that. Like, if as long as you're not hurting anyone and it feels aligned for you, then, to me, let's just all let people be themselves
Yeah.
and love them wherever they are.
Yeah.
It's my
Okay, so that's a great idea, and I think everyone would agree with that, but not all of us find ourselves always able to follow that piece of advice very easily. So what's your response to that?
Well, I think the reason a lot of people aren't able to do it for other people, they're not able to stop judging other people because they're still judging themselves. I mean, that's a hard truth, hard pill, but it's the truth, right? And so the sooner you allow yourself to just love yourself so deeply, so completely, forgive yourself for all the things that you did that went well, that didn't go well, that you did right, that you did wrong, just I would say forgiveness and grace are two of the most beautiful gifts that we can give ourselves first, and then we're able to extend those gifts to the world because we know that now this is not everyone. I will say there are a lot of hard, terrible people, and we all know them, right? We have those realizations, but for the day-to-day person, people are just doing the best they can with the information that they have, with the trauma that they're carrying, and whatever life experience that they've brought to this point. And so the sooner we can release the baggage, release and heal the trauma, forgive ourselves, give ourselves a lot of compassion and grace, then we're able to show up and do that for other people. Yeah.
So when people come to, I mean, you're talking now, the way you're talking now also includes the notion of healing within it, doesn't it? So when people come to you, whether they're coming to one of your retreats or do people work with you one-to-one as well?
Yeah, I do have a small private client group.
Do they find that in addition to reconnecting to the joy and learning how to come back to the joy, do they find that they also experience a healing effect?
I think so, depending on where they are in their life, but I would say kind of what I was just kind of that other thread that we talked about, the forgiveness and grace. I walked them through ways to do that in a way that maybe they hadn't experienced before, and it gets them. You know how sometimes you think, "This is where I am on this side of the bridge, and I really wanna be on the other side, but there's, like, this river through it that I need to figure out how to get on the other side of." And to me, that's part of what I'm able to help them get from where they are in their life to where they really wanted to be, or and experience what they've always wanted, and they never were able to quite get there. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I specifically work with women. I don't work with men, but, it's a beautiful thing to watch women transform right in front of your eyes. You know, it's the most beautiful thing to watch them become who they've always wanted to be, and I think who God, source, creator, whatever you call it, intended. And that's a really beautiful thing to experience. I
Mm.
love it.
And why is it that you work only with women and not with men?
I just don't feel drawn to do that. There are enough women that need help and support. And I just think that right now, we need women to step fully into their magic, their message, their mission, and create their own movements. And I just don't feel drawn to help men with that right now. There's plenty of guys that work with, and other women that work with men right now. It's just not my calling.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just interested because um, that whole question of whether people work with men or women or both
Yeah.
is important, and I like your answer actually, which is you don't feel drawn to do it.
Yeah.
Boom, that's it. And that fits with everything else you said. You're doing what you're drawn to do,
Exactly.
and that has a kind of a purity to it
Mhm.
and a lightness to it, as opposed to I want to help the world, I want to heal the world, but I've got to suffer to do it, which is the opposite point of view.
The opposite. Yeah. The other thing too is that the depth of work that I do is very intimate. It's very vulnerable. And I just think there is a safety for for everyone, for me and my clients, for it just to be feminine, just women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The work that I do is it's too close, in my opinion. If I was doing something more, I don't know, easy. I don't know what the word is, but a little lighter, you know? But the depth of the transformation, I just feel more comfortable working with women at this time. So yeah. But you're right. If that shifts, or if I get a calling or the intuition that I need to do something, then I will. I always um I honor what shows up and where I feel drawn to serve.
Yeah.
So
And of course, your clients are all doing what they do, and some of them are going to be helping men in certain ways.
absolutely.
So they
Well,
come to you to get what they need for themselves as a woman,
right.
and then some of them take that out into, I work with men and women, but sometimes I go into situations which is all women
Yeah,
to feed that side of myself,
right.
and then I come back and apply. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I get what you mean as well, because sometimes you need just women, or sometimes men's groups need just men in
yeah,
there to
exactly.
have a certain kind of safety
Right.
for those particular journeys.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's a unique time and a unique experience that happens when men and women come together in connection, or in a container, let's call it. For me, I've done both a few times over the years, but right now I'm like, the women need this level of support, and they need this level of transformation to fully step into what they need to be doing, because I believe that women are going to be the ones that really are able to um, shift us into a whole new way of living and leading. So it's a very exciting time.
Amazing. So I'm curious, you have this, like we said, a very strong spiritual and soul-led context for your work. Along the path of your journey, is that something that's just naturally evolved, or have you been involved in any particular practices or studies or modalities that have particularly fed into that?
Okay, so I'm a super nerd when it comes to learning. I love um I love to learn, where really my light up point is where science and spirituality come together. So spiritual technology and quantum science, physics, and like that kind of stuff is just, I geek out on all of that. And I have a lot of certifications because I love to learn things. So I'm always doing something new, right? I studied a lot of yoga. I took like 3 different 200-hour yoga teacher trainings in different traditions. I think at one point I had like 42 certifications of things because I just am so curious. So I can go down rabbit holes very easily and just be happy as a clam. Some people watch Netflix, I learn stuff, right? So I'm constantly kind of feeding my mind and heart and spirit with new just possibilities and new concepts and new theories. And so I would say there's a lot of different um, paths that I've been on. You know, when I first started, I studied nutrition, so my background is in nutrition. And then you mentioned I got a master's years later in health management. So like population health and more of the physical, like I spoke about that biometric model of well-being and how do we help employers make their employees healthier, that kind of thing. So I did that for a long time. Then I started getting into more of the spiritual paths with some yoga, and I did my first yoga teacher training, and then I went on to do, you know, like I said, the 2 other ones. And but then over the last probably 10 years, I've just been really curious about you know, metaphysics and diving into that and quantum physics and I study a lot of mystical teachings. So not really anything religious, but very um, the mystical side of spirituality. So like Christian mysticism, things like that are really cool to me. So so yeah, I have a lot of interests, but I have mainly again that through line is how do we live a magical life and what are the things that I need to know and learn to not only help myself because I only teach what I have experienced myself, right? That's very important to me. And then how can I bring that to the world? How can I bring that to clients and help them have their own version of a soul sparkling life? It may not be living in a village in Tuscany or, you know, some traveling the world like I have, but like their own version. What does it look like for them? And how can I help them find their way back to their own path of what I call the magic carpet ride, which is living life from this awe and wonder and whimsy kind of vibe. So
Absolutely, and why on earth not? I mean, that whole thank you very much for that, because that really links into something I've been very interested in recently, which is that this idea that at different phases of humanity, it's been acceptable to be either really scientific or really mystical, but not both.
right.
And it feels like in our world now, you can actually be both.
You can be. Yeah.
And you're embodying that. You know, it's like you've learned the nuts and bolts, and then you've explored, well, what's it all mean?
Yeah.
And what's really important.
Point. Yeah. What's the point of all this? And how do we navigate it? And how do we navigate it with as much ease and grace as we possibly can? Right. And I think going back to what you said earlier about people that are very, very caught up in what is going on in the world and how we should be outraged, we should be this, and yes, we should be to a degree. But again, what we focus on is what we're going to experience more of, right? And that one single teaching, if we can understand that the more I focus on creating my own personal beautiful life, my own um, art, my own creations, whatever it is that I'm feeling drawn to put out into the world, it's, you know, as above, so below, as within, so without. So the more I put that out, that is more of the experience that we're going to have, right? So I would just encourage anyone that's listening to really think about that one concept and think about how is it helping you to watch the news every day? How is it helping to scroll social media all the time and be outraged all the time? Because all that does is activate your nervous system, deregulate you, and create more of that experience for humanity, right? We forget how powerful we really are. We are creating, we are co-creators with the universe, right? We're co-creating with God. Everything that we want to put out into the world, we need to be everything we want to experience, we need to be putting that out. Like that needs to be the energy that we're in. And so I don't know if that's helpful, but for me, that's really been one way that I've decided. I have decided for myself that I can live with a heart that's broken wide open because it allows me to love more and show up more. But it also helps me not stay in that frequency. And it helps me to elevate myself because I know that what is the research the um the scale of consciousness where it's like one person that's emanating unconditional love can affect 700,000 people around them. One person, right? So think about how much more effective you can be at creating change if you stay at your highest possible frequency versus staying down in that, guilt, shame, judgment, obligation, anger, fear. Like if you can stay at love or above, it's like, wow, that's how we really change. That's how we make a significant impact for the world. So, yeah, that's one of the things I like to think about.
That is very helpful and beautifully said, if I may say. That what you want to experience, put that out into the world. So, for example, if I'm, suddenly really overwhelmed with things to do, um, if I put out that energy being overwhelmed into the world, I'm going to get more of it back.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it too, and a lot of people use an example of like, say you spill your coffee on the way to work in the morning in your car. Like you've got the cup of coffee, you spill it, and the whole rest of the day, all you think about is that spilled cup of coffee, and then you run a red light, and then you get a ticket, and then it's like this snowball, right? Versus just like, huh, that's interesting. So what I try to do is, and this is a little trick that I sometimes teach, it's like stay in the inquiry. Wow, that's interesting that I spilled that coffee. Not get upset about it, not have a fit, because the more you do that, the more you're just going to keep having that experience that you don't want to have, right? So just take a deep breath, bring it back to center. Wow, that's interesting. I'm going to have a great day. Today's going to be great. Things always work out for me. Like it's almost like it sounds silly, but you can actually just reframe your reality in just a few seconds if you know how to do it, right? So instead of staying in that space of overwhelm, of upset, of anger, just take a deep breath, recenter yourself. Well, that's interesting. Not good, not bad. I'm curious what's going to happen. What else is possible today that's going to happen that's amazing? And you just like have this little pep talk for yourself like a crazy person. To some people that are listening, they're going to be like, I'm not going to talk to myself in the car. But you know what? If you do, the whole rest of your day could be different, right? Things always work out for me. I love how things always work out for me. I do that all the time. And there's been time and time again where maybe I've shown up for a flight on the wrong day. Totally my mistake. And then I sit there and I think, well, that's interesting. But things always work out for me. So I'm going to get a different flight. It's going to be easy. It's going to be the same price. It's not going to be stressful. It's going to be lovely. Like I just go into that revelation of truth that's possible, or the outcome that I want. So I speak the outcome that I want almost every single time. Here you go. Here's your flight, your new flight, no charge. I'm like, wow, things always work out for me, right? So I think giving ourselves the permission to be powerful in that way is also one of the most beautiful things that we can do.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
I'll bet you're so fun to work with.
Well, I have been called, okay, what is it? The Sparkle Queen and also Fairy Godmother. And those are some of my favorites. It's like, oh, we make dreams come true, you know?
Amazing, amazing.
We
Well,
do.
before we finish, I'm going to ask you a couple of little wind-up questions. So one of them is, some of the people who like to tune into this show, well, actually, probably a lot of them, are actively involved in being part of the solution in one way or another. Whether they're parents, leaders, community leaders, spiritually, whatever they might be, or just people trying to be good people in their own lives. And is there something you'd like to say to those sorts of people in particular in relation to some of what we've been talking about today? Does
Yeah,
something come
those
to mind?
yeah. The ones that are doing the work already, that are already in it.
Yeah.
I would say keep going and thank you. This has not been an easy journey, especially for those of us that are considered, the way showers or the light bringers, right? The light workers. But it is part of our job. I mean, we're here for such a time as this, right? And so now is the time to stay grounded, to stay open, to stay visible as much as you can. And like you said, be the embodiment of the light, be the embodiment of the love, because there are going to be so many people that are going to struggle significantly in the next days, in the coming days and years. But for those of us that know and are doing it and are anchoring in the light, we just have to stay grounded and stay connected and not allow ourselves to give up. We can't give up the hope, right? And so just keep doing the thing that you know you're called to do in the way you're called to do it. And also not judge yourself for not being like everyone else. I think that's a big part too, because I think, like you said earlier, a lot of people are like, well, they're supposed to be this, they're supposed to be angry, they're supposed to be activists, they're supposed to be protests or whatever. We're not all built the same way, and we don't all have the same calling. So we cannot judge another for where they are on their journey, because as long as they're doing exactly what they're called to do and you're doing exactly what you're called to do, then you're not the boss of me. I'm not the boss of you. You do what you're supposed to be doing, and I'm doing my job. So we're not all created in the same way, and our nervous systems are all different. So I would just say honor the truth of who you are, listen to the call, stay connected to source, and do the thing that you're meant to be doing.
Yeah.
And thank you. How's that?
That's beautiful. Well, I'm personally taking that on.
That's great.
It's a
Good
gift.
job.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about quite a lot today, and I've thoroughly loved it. And I could talk to you for hours. Has there been a favorite part of our conversation for you today?
Oh, I love the whole thing. Like I said, I can talk about this stuff for all day. I think what's refreshing is when we see each other, right? And we feel understood and known. And that is such a gift. That would be another thing I would say to the people that are listening that are doing this type of thing. It's allow people to see you, allow people to know you and understand you, and surround yourself with those people. That to me is the most critical. Like I have a very small circle, very tight, deep, not wide, if that makes sense. Like very, very deep, but it's small. And so I would say making sure that you surround yourself, find yourself a few of those people that you can talk about all the things with, that you don't have to filter yourself. Because I think the less we have to filter ourselves, the more the truth, the authenticity, the real essence of who we are comes out. And right now, we talk about frequency. Authenticity is actually the highest frequency. So you have love, you have grace, and da 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 da. Authenticity, the more real you are, the highest contribution that you're making to humanity. Isn't that cool?
That's very cool.
Yeah. So find yourself people that you can be honest with, and I feel like I've just been able to share whatever comes up, and that's a lovely feeling today. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And equally for me, it's a gift because, it's great to be able to share with somebody, but it's also great to be shared with.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
it's both of it is very beautiful. So thank you very much for that. This has been such a fantastic conversation and such a gift. And with lots of sparkle within it, while still very grounded and soulful. So thank you so much, Hayley, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was a blessing.
And thank you everybody for watching and listening, and have a fantastic week full of joy while being authentic. This is not about being superficial. And do check out Hayley's website, which is soulsparkleliving.com. And check out her work because it's amazing. And also she's got lots of beautiful little videos all over Instagram and probably in other places too. So thank you so much, everybody. Do check out my other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com, and do check out my other work on beingspace.world. Thank you so much. Have a great week. And thank you, Hayley.
Thanks so much.